name's Nikolas Lgios or Lagis, depending on where you are. I work for the South Bay Lakers and the LA Lakers, and I also have a passion for traveling the world, living overseas, and doing camps overseas. So that's kind of why we started Global Stars, to try and connect with people overseas and either do coaching clinics like this year or stuff like this, or eventually do camps overseas. So hopefully next year, when the virus is under control, we can come to Israel. It'll be fun. But yeah, I'm going to talk a lot, but ask questions at any point. I don't know if I'll answer them during it or just at the end of the presentation, but definitely either write down some questions in the chat box, and yeah, we'll figure it out. It'll be good. Just need to switch the slide. All right, there we go. Okay, so at first I will, this is the outline. I'm going to talk about who is on the staff of teams. I'll do NBA teams, college, and G League teams, just kind of like what it looks like, what type of roles and jobs you should try and target, how to meet more people. I'll talk about how important your network is. That's really, your skills is important, but your network's just as important. Some relationship building strategies with this, things I've failed with or seen or succeeded with, and then I'll just kind of tell you so you don't have to make those mistakes, and what happens if you do get an opportunity. And right here on the right, this is Ryan Pannone. He was an assistant coach with the Jerusalem team for, I want to say, 2 or 3 years. And now he's the head coach of the Uri Bayhawks. So it's absolutely possible. I know it seems like a crazy dream, but I was from like Portland, Maine. It's like not a really famous place. My dad has nothing to do with basketball. My mom doesn't even like basketball. And I was able to work for the Lakers on the other side of the country. So it may seem like crazy, but your dream of working in the US, either in the NBA, is absolutely possible. So don't let anyone tell you it's not. It is difficult. I'll tell you that. I'll tell you a lot of stories, but it's absolutely possible. So hope I can help. So here's my basketball journey. I grew up in Portland, Maine on the East Coast. Then I went to college at University of Colorado. I got an internship with Kroenke Sports. They own the Denver Nuggets and Arsenal and the hockey team in Denver, Colorado Avalanche. But internship and community relations, that kind of opened my eyes to all these jobs that I will talk about in a second. After that, I worked at Stanford with their basketball team. I moved to San Francisco. That's where my aunt lives, got a job. Eventually, I'll talk about that process. Then I moved to Australia, worked with the Sydney Kings and the national teams there, doing a wide variety of jobs. And then I went to Los Angeles because I got a job. I'll tell you about that. But I worked with the South Bay Lakers and LA Lakers about the last 4.5 years, which has been unbelievable. And then last year, we wanted to do some more overseas camps and started Global Stars basketball with a few guys. So our goal is to eventually do more and more things overseas. Again, like the virus needs to come under control, but hopefully we'll get back overseas again. Not this year. Oh yeah, I'll go back to this. So I think another special tip, just right off the bat, I'll put important things in green, is a lot of these logos are pretty recognizable. Australia, Stanford, Sydney, not as much, but whatever. But the Lakers, it's like when you see that, you kind of know what it is. So if you can get onto a organization, a club, or work with the national team, if you're working with like 8-year-olds, it doesn't matter. Just work with things with big names. I think obviously you can't just work with the Lakers, but you can kind of see the progression that I had to do, and eventually you do get to it. So I think when you do get opportunities to work with big organizations, whether it's the national teams or Maccabi Tel Aviv, regardless of the level, I wouldn't have talked to Yuval if I didn't see he was emailing me from Maccabi Tel Aviv. I was like, whoa, like that's big time, So I think over time, try and get with these bigger and bigger brands, and then it just becomes a worldwide brand, not just a local brand, if that makes any sense. So a couple obstacles that you'll have. It's very competitive working in basketball in the US, as is probably across the world, as you know. Work visa is difficult. American employees don't need it. And also with the work visa, it's expensive to get and it's kind of complicated to get. So a lot of the entry-level jobs that I will suggest, maybe a team doesn't want to pay for a work visa just because it's more complicated. The network, people generally hire people they've worked with and they know. If you're overseas, obviously you're probably going to know less Americans. The low pay for entry level, a lot of times it's not even possible. It's just very low pay. Regardless of what country you're in, it's really low pay. And I think the last one is a lot of people overseas don't necessarily understand the NCAA basketball world. And that's where most of the jobs are in the US. So this is what a college staff looks like. And again, I would just pay attention to the greens. The greens are the types of positions that you should probably try and target. So a top D1 team, they have one head coach, 3 assistants, 1 to 2 video coordinators. Basketball assistants, interns, stuff like that. And then student managers, 5 to 20. So that number kind of pops out. I'll talk about that in a second. Roles that I've been a video coordinator and a basketball ops assistant. So the lower D1, you kind of see the staffs get smaller and smaller. You get 1 volunteer assistant. Sometimes an assistant coach is a student. So this is what a college staff looks like. So what is a student manager? Again, I just said there's 5 to 20 at some of the bigger schools. When I was working at Stanford, we had 7 student managers. So a student manager is either a undergrad or graduate student. And again, being a student in the US is very easy visa-wise. You can study here for probably forever and we'll have you stay. Obviously, it gets expensive, but you can easily become a student. You can easily become a student manager. Any college will take you. If you're a student at the school and you're like, I want to help out with the basketball team, unless it's Duke or Kentucky, you can work at any school and help out with either the women's or men's team. What do? They help out in practice, they rebound, they do laundry, video statistics, anything the coaches need to get done. Do they get paid? I'd say sometimes, but it's pretty rare. But some schools do give them scholarships and some schools help them get into school. So say you're trying to work at a school that maybe you wouldn't get into. Sometimes the university will help you get into the university, just like they'll do with players. Why do it? Why not? If you can be a student, either undergrad or graduate student in the US, if you could just do it for a semester, just a little bit, you'll get to meet a lot of people in the US, you'll gain those experiences, and it's an amazing experience. You're part of the basketball team, essentially. So this is what a professional NBA G League staff look like, coaching staff. So again, 4 assistants, 3 to 4 player development, and then 2 to 3 video coordinators, 2 to 3 video interns, which I was with the LA Lakers. So then 22 to 27 total on the coaching staff of the NBA. A big G League team, which would be probably the South Bay team. You have 1 video coordinator, 1 video intern. I was intern and video coordinator. I've done every job, I tell you. And then a smaller G League team, there's different levels of G League teams, just like there's different level, Premier League soccer teams. So a smaller one, I think for you guys, you could possibly be an assistant coach on a smaller G League team. That's something you could target. Again, you got to go through the visa process, but I did know a Ukrainian coach who was an assistant coach with the Windy City Bulls. A video coordinator you can absolutely target, but again, those staffs are a little bit smaller than the bigger G League team. A front office for an NBA team is about 27 to 40 people. This took me forever to make. I'm kind of guesstimating, but I think we all want to be GM, but there's a process here. So I think the scouting department is something you can target if you start doing your own scouting reports. Each team hires probably 2 to 3 international scouts. So maybe you start with that, and then you'll be coming to the US, 3-4 times a year and meet a lot of people. Basketball ops interns, something to target, entry-level jobs. I think I've held all these jobs, but generally the end of the totem pole would be the basketball ops interns, basketball admin, and then international scouts would be a great entry level for you guys. So I talked about video coordinators quite a bit. This is for coaching, generally the entry level for a lot of coaches. I'd say at this point, most coaches, including Eric Spoelstra and Frank Vogel in the finals. So they report to the head coach. They're kind of the coach's assistant with anything basketball and maybe some things outside of basketball. They're just helping the coach with as much as they can do. So you're doing video scouting, you're downloading tons of games. You're just making sure the coaches are ready to play. So whatever, the coaches, they don't want to necessarily cut up all the clips when you're about to play Arizona. So you're cutting up all the clips for the coaches, and then they choose the clips that they want. So you're just kind of like holding their hand through the process. An assistant coach with Stanford said, you're the steam that makes the engine run. So you're just going between all the coaches, making sure they are good, helping them with the things they don't want to do. It's a lot of long hours. That's just part of it. But you also learn a ton. So not only are you meeting a lot of good people doing it, but you're learning a lot. you're learning everything you need to know in basketball and probably more. The pay, I'd say it's generally minimum wage with a lot of the smaller schools to a livable salary, and sometimes a pretty high salary at a high major school. But again, getting a job at UCLA versus a smaller school, it's much more difficult to get a job with UCLA. And then a special tip, there's a lot of classes on like how to be a video coordinator or how to use Synergy or whatever, and they charge a lot of money. I would not suggest doing that. Again, you'll learn how to use this software right here in the computer, but it's the coaching and the getting onto the court, understanding how a team works, understanding how basketball works. That is what you should be focusing on learning, and that doesn't cost anything. That's just, working in basketball and probably doing things that you guys already do or playing in basketball. Basketball ops assistant, I won't talk about this too much, but this is the other entry-level job in the more front office. So you report to the GM. You do a lot of general admin work like expenses, so non-basketball things. General team logistics, laundry, airport runs. I know LAX as well as anybody. And then you do some, and then eventually you start to do some basketball things, and it's nice because you get to use your brain a little bit. And the pay for these jobs is very low. A lot of times you need another job, which is unfortunate because you're working these, a lot of hours, and then it's really not enough to live. So that's the reality. People think basketball, you'll make a ton of money. At the entry level, I made more money serving weddings. I had to work weddings at night and basketball in the day. So I had to clean sailboats too. So I was making more money cleaning sailboats and just like scrubbing boats all day than I was rebounding for players with the Lakers organization. And that's not just the Lakers, that's across the league. So some strategies on how to grow your NCAA network. Each NCAA team, they do in a normal year, I'd say 5 to 8 camps. So they'll have the coaches of, Stanford, they will help out at these camps. The student managers will help out, the players. So by doing these camps, you're going to start to meet a lot of contacts. And then at the same time, you're going to meet all the coaches coaching at the camp. So they have all the student managers come from Michigan State, Kentucky. Guys would just do tours of the U.S., doing as many camps as they can do. So D2 coaches, D3 coaches. So while you're working at a camp, not only would you meet the Stanford coaches, but everyone around you is in the sport of basketball. And that's not necessarily going to get you a job, but over time, if you keep coming back to the same camps every year, if you keep seeing the same coaches, that's just how relationships get built. And, if one of those guys gets a job, maybe you get brought on. So I couldn't suggest doing camps enough. Long rant there, but look into being a graduate manager, connect with players and coaches. All the email addresses to coaches are online. So if you want to reach out to, Montana State's coach, be like, hey, I know a couple good Israeli players or whatever. Here you go, send them information, stuff like that. They will absolutely be welcoming in that. And if you email 100 coaches, maybe 10 respond. That's really good. In the NBA, you can't just email anyone. It's really hard to find email addresses, but with college, you can do that. So I think scouting reports to your country, as I just said, very valuable. Coaches are always asking me, do you know anyone in, international countries, stuff like that? I'm like, a few, I know Yuval, and I'll connect people from Australia and Russia and stuff like that, but just reach out to them. Their email addresses are all online with every university. Recruiting events, I don't know this world as well, but there's a lot of AAU events, anything in Vegas. You'll meet a lot of coaches, but I would suggest reaching out to coaches, try and do NCAA camps, see if you can be a graduate manager of the main ones. So if you do get an opportunity to coach at a basketball camp, and I'd say not just a basketball camp, but any type of event, these are the types of things I've kind of learned. And this is a picture from the show, The Bachelorette. Assuming, I haven't watched it, but basically all these guys are trying to get the girl. But you are not going to outcoach anyone, so you got to chill out. A lot of coaches will come to these camps or showcases and try and be like Tom Thibodeau or something. Like, you got to chill out. That's not how it's going to work. You just got to trust in time. You will meet more people. You will meet people at the camp. You don't need to draw up the best, after timeout play. You don't need to win the camp championship. No one cares. You just have to be friendly with the people around you. and just trust me on that. You'll get there in time. You're not going to get there through just trying to be that guy or girl trying to do too much. At the same time, I would make it be known that you're from overseas. So yeah, tell them you're from Israel. Like, that's pretty cool. I don't remember we had an Australian coach at the Stanford camps, but never an Israeli coach. I mean, that's really cool. I mean, that's unique, and you don't really have to say much about it. That's just for me, it would be pretty amazing. Like, wow, you came all the way to California to coach at these camps. That's unique. At the same time, I said, don't try and do too much. Don't try and coach too much. But if you can do extra help, always offer. With Stanford, that's how I got my start, through camps. I did probably 6 or 7 of them that first year. And I was not the most knowledgeable coach. So I'm like, you know what? I just need to do what I know. And that's just like working hard. So I'd always ask them, hey, like, need help with pumping up the balls, moving the balls, or want me like wipe up the floors? Just try and ask to help as much as you can. And you don't need to sell yourself. You're kind of already showing your work ethic. So this is a little funny story. When I was coaching the Stanford camps, I didn't have much experience. I really wanted to get an internship with them. They had 2 internships opening up. So I was like, okay, like, I'm not going to get there by being the best coach. That a lot of people were trying to do that. It's basically just a bunch of people running around with their head chopped off. I'm like, I'm going to coach the youngest kids. I coach the 1st and 2nd graders. And then, a lot of the coaches, Stanford coaches, started watching us coach the 1st and 2nd graders because we were so enthusiastic. I had the Fire Sharks and my friend had the Dunkers, and we were reffing them like it was the NBA Finals. So a lot of our coaches, they had kids that were either on our teams, the Fire Sharks or Dunkers, or they had kids that age. So I think they kind of relate with us. So I think it's just, you don't necessarily need to be the best coach at the camp. You just need to give the best impression. So yeah, the Fire Sharks versus Dunkers. And then Juventus was actually practicing at Stanford, and it was like Pirlo and Buffon. They like came onto the court and were like kind of playing with the Fire Sharks and Dunkers. All the guys who were coaching the 8th graders, like the 12, 13-year-olds, they're being all serious and stuff, but we had Buffon in goal for us. So, I mean, it was just really funny. That's not going to happen probably at your camp, but that's just, again, I would try and be unique and do what you can do, but don't try and do too much. So how to meet NBA and G League people. Summer League's a big one. Las Vegas, I have no idea when it's going to be this year. But Summer League is kind of a must-go to meet NBA people. Yeah, again, no idea. Portsmouth Invitational, that's in Virginia. Really easy place to meet a lot of people. Good place to bring scouting reports to people like that, people like me. Professional Basketball Combine, that's in LA in June. The G League Showcase, no idea when, but December. Las Vegas, great place to meet me. Future Global Stars camps, meetups. We're going to do camps overseas in the future. Again, this is just a funky year, but obviously would love to do some camps in Israel, so reach out if you're interested. And again, it wouldn't just be me. If I come with like 2 to 3 either NBA assistants or G League assistants, you're probably not going to get a job like then. But, if we come every year, we become friends, and maybe eventually that leads to a job. But I think that's just a good way we can share it. We can learn stuff from you, and you can learn stuff from us. But yeah, we'll look for that in the future. So these are the levels of a working relationship. If you are reaching out to a total stranger, before this talk, if you reach out to me, it'd be like a 0.3 success rate, maybe even lower. If like, hey, like, my name's Nick and I'm interested in a job, Nick, can you help me out? Probably not going to work. A friend or acquaintance goes up to about 10%. So, if I'm like friends with you, it's still pretty low, because just because I'm friends with you doesn't mean I can get you a job, because I don't really know how you're going to work. And then it goes to former coworker, 70% success rate. Like, if you've worked with someone before and it went well, doesn't always go well, you can probably get him a job. And that's how I've got all my jobs. I was working at Stanford. I got pretty fortunate getting that first internship, but then a Stanford coach came to the Lakers. I went to Australia. And then when I came back from Australia, the Laker coach who was at Stanford, since I already worked with him, he knows what I'm going to do. He was able to bring me on with the Lakers at the lowest of lowest role, but he still was able to get me. So again, just kind of think about, I'm probably with you guys between a stranger and a friend, like, or acquaintance. We're getting there, but you're not really going to get a job through me. You're going to get one from someone you're going to work with, or one of the people you'll meet here. I don't really know, but just kind of think about like, it's going to be the people around you that will get you a job in the NBA, believe it or not. Like, I'll get to you on how that works, but it will be very unlikely that I will be able to get you a job just from meeting you once or twice. So if you are reaching out to people online, either LinkedIn or emailing them, I would just be mindful that they're getting a lot of messages. Just be short, straight to the point, intro, goals, appreciation. Just say what you want to do, what your goals are with your career, and just appreciate them for the time. Maybe add some value. You know, if you're reaching out to a college coach, give them a scouting report of Israeli players, NBA scout, just give them as much information as you can do. And then kind of update them on your progress in your career every 3 to 6 months. I'd say social media, I would follow coaches and interact with them like ever so often. I wouldn't be annoying and like, you know, just don't be annoying. But I would add them on Instagram and probably not Facebook anymore, but maybe Instagram, and just follow them through time, you know, say like congrats on a win, stuff like that. And, you know, so as total stranger, you probably won't have much luck in anything. You know, maybe they respond, but if you can find a mutual friend or contact to help connect you with the coach, that's really, you know, if my friend Brian is like, hey, can you reach out to this coach? For sure, I'm going to reach out. Like, he's my friend. I'm not going to leave like my friend's friend hanging. So try and find mutual contacts to connect with people, not just a total stranger. But you have nothing to lose, so reach out to them. But things to avoid in online email or text, I would just avoid asking for anything, including kind of a how are you? Because a lot of, you know, I'll probably receive like 5 or so LinkedIn messages a day, and they're all kind of asking for a phone call. And it's just, there's not enough time in the day for me to call these people, and I don't even know them. So it's just, I think asking for feedback, asking for anything, I wouldn't do. I would just try and give them things. Don't get upset if they don't respond. I remember I used to be kind of puzzled, like, why isn't anyone responding to me? But I now see why. Because, you know, if I come back to my LinkedIn or even email sometimes after a weekend, I'll have like 25, 30 missed messages, and I won't respond to really any of them. It just becomes overwhelming. And reaching out too often, again, I'd probably stick to 3 to 6 months, just so they kind of remember who you are, but you don't want to be annoying. So in person, let's say you're at the Las Vegas Summer League, and you see me just walking around, and someone, I did this presentation before, they asked like, well, how would I know that you're, you know, someone, or you work for a team? At these events, almost everyone is wearing a credential. So you wear a credential with your name and the team you work with, and usually there's a certain color. It'd be like green is with a team, and blue is with the NBA, and purple is international scout. So you'll kind of know who works for teams. So if you don't know me at all, I would suggest introducing yourself, say your basketball experience, what you want to do. At the same time, be proud of your team. A lot of people will come up to me like, oh, like I'm working with, you know, just a youth team in Monaco. And, you know, I fast forward through time, it's like he's working with like the youth academy for Monaco. I'm like, I don't really know how good that team is, but I know that Mbappe played for Monaco. Like, that's really cool. Like, you don't need to be ashamed of it or anything. Like, be proud of your team and what you're doing. Or some high school in Jerusalem. Like, I don't know. Like, it's cool. Like, whatever. You know, if we just had a game, if I just had a game and you're talking to me, like, oh, that was awesome. Like, you know, Lakers look really good. Like, everyone likes being congratulated, or, you know, when people give appreciation. And a lot of times people like me and scouts, they don't really get that appreciation. It'll always kind of be like the GM or the head coach. So I think just trying to be like, oh, like, great work, you know, oh, like, I really like this guy you drafted, stuff like that. Then I would give your contact information, and then I would just kind of leave them, because just understand that they probably had that conversation like 50 times that day, just people coming up to them and stuff. So there's really nothing else you can do. You kind of said what you're doing, and just kind of leave them alone. But you don't want to just like walk away. Just give them their contact information, or if you have a scouting report or something, then just kind of leave them like, all right, like, nice meeting you. I know you're busy, and just leave. You will meet that person again, and they're going to be appreciative that you didn't just linger around, and it gets, and then you're like, oh, I gotta go. That's what I'll say, but it's like, I got nowhere to go. So I was like, walk around, but just understand how busy they are. And if they don't know you, it's difficult, to say the least. It's mentally draining. things to avoid, just understand that they are working a lot of times. So if I'm at Portsmouth Invitational or Las Vegas, I am working. I'm watching basketball, which is like still kind of a joke for me. Not a joke in that it's easy, but it still seems surreal that a lot of times I will go to games and it's my job. But you got to understand, it is their job. So, if I'm trying to watch a game, don't be like this guy that's having popcorn. People will come sit next to me when I'm scouting, like focusing in, and just start talking to me like, wow, like, Crusoe's looking good. I'm just like, yo, I'm trying to scout right now. So really read that situation and give space. I think if people are working, just don't do it. So yeah, don't linger, play hard to get a bit. And if people are working, just leave them alone. So say you have a friend in the business or acquaintance in the business, just kind of understand don't be competitive with them. Be with them, don't be against. Friends hire friends, acquaintances hire acquaintances. Go out with them, go out to eat. You can drink if you want. I don't really drink, but just if you're in Las Vegas, don't like stay in your hotel room the whole time. Like go out and join them, socialize. It kind of feels like work, but once you're out, it's enjoyable. It's just give props when they succeed. Social media, as I already kind of talked about. But yeah, I think with friends in the basketball industry, acquaintances, don't be competitive with them on jobs. Kind of be with them, because if you get competitive, you're going to put yourself on an island. You just want to be as friendly as you can with people. You're not going to be friends with everybody, but understand they're with you, not against you. Former coworkers, so say you worked with a coach, either, with a high school team or a club team or whatever, I'd say keep in touch with them. You don't really have to prove, you don't have to send them scouting reports. It's like they already know what you can or can't do. But at the same time, I would make your intentions known. Like, hey, Brian, I'm interested in coaching in the U.S. someday. If you ever have any ideas, or I'm interested in coaching in Italy, if you ever hear of anything, let me know. I will do that, because if I didn't do that, coaches or people I know in the basketball industry wouldn't tell me. If I was interested in going back to Australia, I would make that known. So if jobs do open, I would hear about it. I'm not going to hear about it in the U.S. So if you just kind of let people what you want to know, if you let people know what you want to do, that's just going to help you. Like, don't try and be a little mystery person. Like, have it be known with the people you really know and trust. You don't want to tell your current team that. You don't want to tell like your boss, like, hey, like I really want to go, like be smart with it. And, so if you do get an opportunity, whether it's, with a college team, NBA team, G League team, which is absolutely possible, or even in Israel, as you know, like David Blatt, it takes time. You don't just like jump to the Cleveland Cavs or whatever. Like, just give it your all. And, if you love basketball, it's going to be easy to do. I'd say a big one is being patient. So a lot of times I'd be frustrated with the lack of assignments, or how I always had to do airport runs or whatever. I think it's just being patient and not to get frustrated, which is way easier said than done. I'd get frustrated all the time. And just, I kind of say this, or I had it throughout, the cream always rises to the top. Again, just kind of, that means, with coffee, I don't drink it, but like the cream rises to the top. Just kind of trust your ability, trust that it's going to work out. And if you just do what you can do, eventually it'll work out. Because if you worry like, Steve got a job with Cleveland and I didn't, blah, blah, blah. Like, Steve getting a job has nothing to do with you. You should probably, this is why you'd be friends with Steve. Because like, I don't need to tell you why, you can figure that out. But worrying about what other people are doing is not going to help you. Just focus on your job, give it all. And that's just how you're going to succeed. Eventually, say you do get an opportunity with whatever level you're at, I think eventually ask for introductions. Say you want to coach in China and the coach you're working with coached in China, maybe ask for introductions. But I think what's more important is in time, these introductions eventually happen. If you are interested in coaching in the US and the coach you worked with coached in the US before, you could ask them for an introduction with some people in the US, but eventually you will, if you stay with this coach long enough, you will meet the contacts you need to meet. I remember with Stanford, I was there for it was like 3 or 4 months, and I was like kind of getting antsy asking for introductions because I know I didn't want to work in college basketball. But eventually I would meet everyone I needed to meet. In time, it's just those contacts kind of happen. You just kind of have to trust that process. So these are the final keys. If these are the only things you take, you can take them. But if you want to work in college basketball, I would highly suggest working NCAA summer camps. I don't know if all the universities can pay you because of just like work visa things. I don't know, but most likely they can house you, they can pay for food. And if you just did a tour of the US of summer camps, not only would you meet all these contacts, but you will have an absolute blast. Like I can promise you, you'll have tons of fun. And it's just, you'll learn a lot too. If you want to work in the NBA G League, try and grow your network, attend events, attend Summer League, attend G League Showcase. If you can, I know it's hard. If you can meet the NBA staff when they do Basketball Without Borders, that's extremely useful. If you want to be a scout, just start scouting now. I mean, if I got a scouting report from the Israeli League every year, I would be pumped because I'll watch a lot of film on the Israeli players, but not a lot of people will be. So if you could just save me the time on watching all these guys or point me in the right direction, that'd be extremely valuable. And one special tip I would give, a lot of people reach out to me saying they took some scouting course, they took some GM school or some video coordinator school. I wouldn't really suggest that. A lot of them are very expensive. And as I said before, you need to grow your network. You're going to gain your basketball skills by working in basketball, by doing what you're doing, working or playing. But you need to grow your network more than your skills. Like you can learn how to use the video editing software to be a video coordinator in like 2 hours. Don't spend like $2,000 on it. So that's just that. Yeah. Cause I feel bad when a lot of people reach out to me and spend like $3,000 on these 2 courses. And I'm just thinking like, that's not really gonna do anything for you. Sadly, I won't tell them that, but it's just, I feel bad. This is my contact information. Absolutely reach out. Ask any questions or whatever. That's my email address. I'm Maynard Nick on Instagram. Here's my WhatsApp number. Feel free to take a picture. We will also probably email this out too if you guys want to have my slides. I went through it kind of quick, but there's a lot of details. Global Stars B-Ball on Instagram. Again, we're going to try and do camps next summer. I would love to do like 2 or 3 in Israel. That'd be I haven't been to Israel yet. That'd be unbelievable. Connect there, do coaching clinics with your local coaches, whatever you want. And if you guys play beach volleyball, I'm always playing volleyball in Hermosa if you make it to Los Angeles. But again, had a great time. I love helping out coaches because I wish I had heard these things when I started this process like 7-8 years ago. So I hope it was helpful and hope to see all you soon. And if you have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat now and I'll be happy to help.
Nick, thank you so much. First, maybe it's better to keep the contact slide on, just for them to have some more time to write it down. Thanks again for your time. We have in the chat like 4 questions, so I'll ask you the questions. I'll translate them for you. Awesome. And then if someone else have different questions, please feel free to unmute yourself and ask. So Oren asked a few questions. First, if there is any minimum age that you should start with like coaching process in the US, like if there is any minimum with like after college graduation or maybe during college or before college. So that's the first one.
So to answer that, I'd say 18. I think before 18, if you're playing basketball, that helps. It's not necessary. But I'd say 18 because if you're in college, I know you guys might have to serve 2 years. So I don't really know. But 18 would be the minimum because a lot of the student managers are also 18. So if you are coaching, a Cal basketball camp, you'll be coaching with other 18 and 19-year-old student managers. So 18 is probably the minimum.
Okay. Other question, Oren also asked about work visa and how much it costs. I can ask about that. I'll answer in Hebrew. אם אתם מקבלים ויזת עבודה והיא דרך אותו מועדון, אוניברסיטה, מה שזה לא יהיה, אני לא יודע להגיד את המחיר של זה בדיוק, אבל זה כמובן באחריותם. זאת אומרת שאם כבר אתם מגיעים למצב שמציעים לכם עבודה כלשהי, כל נושא הוויזה יהיה באחריות הארגון, האוניברסיטה שאתם מצטרפים אליה, זה ככה שחקנים שמקבלים מלגות, וזה נכון גם לחבר'ה שבאים לעבוד. Nick, one other question is about, you mentioned low pay, so someone asked what it means low pay. I guess in the US is different than Israel, and also in the US depends on the state, I guess, or stuff like that. So if you can answer in general.
So I'd say in general, low pay, it's going to be different in every country you're in, but low pay, I'm saying it won't be enough to live. So it's just not a livable wage. So say at Stanford, I want to say it was about, not much. It was maybe $1,100 a month, but average rent in my area was probably 1,500. So I was living in a really bad place for like 800, and I had $300 to spend, which is in a month not enough. So you need to work these side jobs to make a living. So I'd say when I say low pay, you need to get another job either in the off season to have savings or during the season to not go bankrupt.
Sounds good. Tal is asking about how is your daily schedule looks like in your current position. So maybe if you can tell a bit what you're doing in South Bay and Lakers and about your job.
Yeah, so I'd say in a normal world, well, right now, since it's just, I don't go into the office because the virus is still bad. I haven't been in the office in 6 months. I will watch film for about 2 to 3 hours in the morning with a couple people with similar roles like mine who help scout for the team. 2 to 3 hours, and then I'll have a lot of odd like projects I'll be working on in the afternoon. One of them I would be like scouting players overseas. As I talked about, I'll watch players in Israel. I'll usually do that in the afternoon and then watch the games at night. Now there's only one game, maybe twice a week now. In a normal world, I would watch film about 2 hours every morning with our staff in the office, watch the practice, either the Lakers or South Bay Lakers practice in the afternoon. And then at the nighttime, I'll watch some games, either our games, South Bay Lakers, LA Lakers, or other games that'll be on TV. So my schedule is always kind of changing, but I like this schedule a lot, that there's a lot of flexibility. It's not like a 9 to 5, sometimes I'll leave the office at 2 and then come back at like 6 o'clock and we'll have a game at 7. So it changes a lot, but that's the part I do like about it.
Sounds good. One, Idan is asking about your experience in Australia. If you can tell a little bit about that, and also if you know, I'm not sure if you're familiar with the opportunities and over there.
Yeah, so I would highly suggest, again, like it's easier said than done moving across the world, but Australia as a whole, nothing to do with basketball, is an amazing country. I mean, I've heard Tel Aviv is amazing. I'm sure it is. Australia and Sydney is like paradise on earth. It is, you have people from all over the world living over there, which is amazing. And then on top of that, basketball is probably, I could go on about that for like an hour, so I'll stop. But so then on top of that, the basketball is probably about the third or fourth biggest sport in Australia. So it's very easy to gain basketball experience in Australia. In the US, it's very difficult. It's very competitive, but in Australia, if you want to work in basketball, not many people are trying to do it. So you could easily work at the high school level, which pays very well there, or you could probably volunteer with a pro team, which is what I did with Sydney. I didn't get paid by the Sydney Kings or with the national teams, but I'd work all these side jobs to make a living, which those jobs actually pay better than the US. So yeah, there are tons of opportunities. If you are interested in going to Australia, let me know. I'm not sure if Israel has a work holiday visa with Australia, but that's what the US has, is we can work in Australia without a work visa. That might be something worth looking up. But if you are interested in working in Australia for a year, 6 months, let me know and I can try and connect you with some people. But I couldn't suggest it enough. I loved it. And you just meet tons of people while you're down there in basketball.
Last one for now, I guess. In the
I
chat,
have a
and
question.
then Yarden, feel free.
Hey Nick, first of all,
Hi.
thank you. Second of all, how is the situation with the GR? If you already graduated, I played for Weber State, and I was looking into being assistant coach or a graduate assistant coach. I have some people that I've been talking to, but most people, like most schools, will ask for GRE test.
Mm-hmm.
Is it still now with all the situation? They're still asking for that. Do you know the situation?
So I did hear that. That's a good question. I did hear that they weren't taking GREs this year or something, or maybe it was LSAT or not LSAT, SATs. So that's what you take to get into college.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know about GREs, and I'm sure it's really difficult to do in Israel. Like maybe there's not many times you can take it. Maybe it's
no, we don't. We don't have it until like March.
Yeah, I would reach out to individual schools about that. They would know, but it's just a weird year. So I don't know how they would expect anyone international to go to college in the U.S. But I think you're on the right route, having already played at Weber State and pursuing this graduate any role. You know, you get your master's degree and you get to work with a team and actually get on the court. You're on the right role, but I'm not quite sure. But I'd reach out to each individual university or the coaches. Maybe they'd know.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Nick. We have a question from Kobe. Kobe, you want to unmute yourself and ask, or you want me to translate because I saw you raise?
No, go for it. I know that your English is better than me.
No,
so go for it and please translate for me.
So Kobe,
I can try.
Yeah, go for it, please.
Okay, thanks you, Nikolas. Just it's funny because I just got back from the state like 3 months ago. I used to live in New Jersey, and I used to coach their JV and varsity team in Jewish high school, and I try to make any application for any college D3, and there is a lot of categories and that ask for the application not relevant for the Israelis or any coach would come out of the state. So there is any possible to cross it, or I don't know, yeah, because I try to make any appointment or nothing, you know.
Yeah, so I understood that completely. I think with a lot of those D3 jobs and just so there's a lot of D3 jobs, D2 jobs, prep schools. You coached at a high school. That's really good. But with a lot of those jobs, they won't, and I've actually heard this, they won't sponsor, they won't even entertain the idea of bringing international coaches because the role will be too small. Now we did, as I said, the G League assistant coach, he was from Ukraine. We had an assistant strength coach, he was from Dubai. So it is possible. I'm not saying it's impossible, but I think with a lot of those D3 jobs, they won't even really consider it. But I think doing the graduate manager role, so get your graduate degree and then coach with the team, I think that's what will get you overseas. That gets you to the US, and then from the US you can kind of figure it out, because I think with a lot of those smaller roles, schools won't even think about it.
Okay, thank you very much, Nicholas.
Thanks.
Can I ask a question, please?
Yeah.
First of all, thanks a lot. I had an experience a few years ago. I went to North Carolina and I was there for a year by Coach Roy Williams and his staff, and it was an amazing experience. He invited me to these summer camps and everything. But now I'm with family, and my question is about families. Are they welcoming you with your whole family? They help in any way, or it's something like, okay, this is your problem, just solve it by yourself?
I think this is your problem. You got to solve it on yourself. And even if you were an American coach, a lot of coaches will come to me and they have a family and they'll be interested in these jobs that, as I said, don't pay enough. So I think this is the problem it is a problem. The problem that a lot of coaches have to think about, like, is it worth it? Like, should I leave everything I have now, leave my job? Some people are working in software sales, making a lot of money, but they want to leave all that to work in basketball to make not enough money to live in any state. So I think it's kind of this is your problem, which is unfortunate, because there is a lot of money in basketball and people always look at how much Roy Williams makes. But if you just go down the line, what he makes is not real life. You know, it's like the top 0.01% of basketball. So I think it kind of is it's your problem. You have to figure it out. Now, maybe if you were to get a visa with a team, your wife could work. I'm not quite sure. Obviously the public schools
I
are
guess
free
I guess
here,
this is not my I'm an American citizen, so it's a little bit easier for me, but you know, it doesn't solve the problem at all.
No, you have to get creative. You know, a lot of the people work in basketball, they'll do things in the summer. Yeah, take away the visa. You'll work side jobs in the summer. We had Andre Ingram working with the South Bay Lakers. He was a math tutor all summer. I mean, that's the reality of it. But, you know, a lot of those coaches, even our G League coaches, will be working side gigs in the summer to make a living. Yeah.
Okay, thanks a lot. Appreciate it.
Happy to help.
עוד שאלות? Any other questions? אם אני אסכם, Nick, I'll just summarize in Hebrew for a second, but כל המטרה של מה שאני עושה פה, וניק זה הראשון ויהיו לנו עוד הרצאות, זה א' להביא קצת תוכן מקצועי, מארצות הברית זה היה פחות מקצועי ויותר פרקטי, אבל גם תוכן מקצועי, וגם בסוף בשבילכם, אני בעיקר עבדתי עם שחקנים עד היום, והסיבה שאני רוצה גם לקרב אלינו מאמנים ב-U-Vision זה כי אני גם רוצה לפתוח אתכם לאנשים בארצות הברית, בסוף זה הכל נטוורקינג, כמו שהוא סיפר פה, בין אם זה להגיע לארצות הברית, לאירועים, לפורטסמוט, לווגאס, או בין אם אמריקאים שמגיעים לפה, אבל בסוף זה הכל קשרים, וניק הוא בן אדם כמובן מאוד מחובר ומקושר, ועובד במקום סופר סופר רציני, ואני מזמין אתכם כמובן, יהיו עוד הרצאות, עוד אנשי מקצוע, תבואו, זה הרבה גם בשבילכם, וההיכרות והפרטים שלו, ושלחו לו מייל או טלפון, זה כבר, אתם כבר לא זרים, וזה מה שאני רוצה להביא בסוף בשבילכם. וזהו, thank you so much, Nick, for your time. Obviously, I guess the guys, everyone here will get to know you in our future presentations maybe, or even if you'll come with Global Stars to Israel for camp. But I appreciate your time, and stay safe and healthy.
Yeah, thanks for having me. And again, reach out whenever you guys would like. Happy to help with whatever I can help you with. And best of luck with your journey. I thought I was hopeless when I was starting my basketball journey, but it's absolutely possible. So just keep dreaming and keep trying.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Bye, כולם. תודה.